Hey everyone, as he said, I'm Maria Raquel Bossi, Senior Director of Education and International Initiatives at Film Independent. Welcome to our Director's Close-Up 2023 at the Wallis this year. We're really excited to be here. Before we start, I would like to definitely thank our generous sponsors for making this experience possible. The Director's Close-Up is supported by the Directors Guild of America, SAGindie, IMDb, and the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts. Additional support has been provided by Film Independent Spirit Awards principal partner, IMDb, and official partners, Bullet Frontier Whiskey, Fiji Water, and Green Slate. Our session tonight, yes, please thank them. Our session tonight will be followed by a reception with Bullet cocktails, of course, Fiji waters, and wines by Jamshid. If you have not tried them, they're delicious. So go for it. Go for a great glass of red wine tonight. So we invite you to stay and stay here until it stops raining, because it's been raining a lot, right? So not the whole night, right? But so tonight, we are thrilled to continue the series with one of my favorite sessions, casting and directing actors. And we really got lucky this year to have the creative team behind the new show, Shrinking, which just premiered on Apple TV. They are here for a deep dive into the collaborative process of bringing the screen believable characters and memorable performances. And I've seen some of those in spades in what I've seen so far in this series. So I'm really excited they're all here tonight. Here with us are Brett Benner, CSA, casting director. Debby Romano, CSA, casting director as well. One of our leading actors, Jessica Williams. Beautiful. Director and executive producer, James Ponsoldt, who also is a Film Independent Fellow. And last but not least, the multi-talented filmmaker, Jason Segel, who's the creator. Congratulations on the show, and thank you for coming to share your experience with us tonight. And thank you all for being here. You know, it's raining, and we're all here, and that's great that we're all here to celebrate Shrinking and the art of film. Last but not least, I want to introduce our moderator, a good friend of Film Independent, Darrien Michele Gipson. She's the executive director of SAGindie.
Thank you, as I come to my seat here. Oh, you're the best. Out of all of this group, I'm like, nobody's even gonna clap for me. I'm not cool. Oh, that is so cheap, but I'll take it. So thank you all for coming. We're so excited to see such a full house, especially when it's starting to rain again. So we applaud your bravery of the possibility of getting wet today. I'm so excited to do this because, first of all, I'm always behind on everything. Like, I have 2 kids. I don't even have control of my TV. I don't get to see anything that I want to see. And this time I got to say, Mommy's working. Give me the remote. And I got to binge this amazing show. And I could not have been happier about it. Like, it was so enjoyable and so full, and I'm so excited to get a chance to talk to you about it. So I'm really curious, and I'm gonna, of course, start with you, Jason, as creator, writer, actor. Can you tell us a little bit about the origin story of how this show came about? Because I saw a clip, because I do my homework, of Brett Goldstein and Bill Lawrence talking about how they were both kind of working on projects that were very similar, and Brett said, oh, but mine was much darker. And they decided they would kind of combine forces, but it didn't come together until you joined in the force. So how did they describe this amazing show to you, and what was your impression of it?
Yeah, from what I understand, hi everybody. It's really nice to see you all. We're all feel really lucky to be here. Yeah, from what I understand, those two guys have been wanting to work together on another project because they got along so well on Lasso. And Bill had been working on a project about a therapist. He had, I'm not telling tales out of school, but he had a neighbor who went through something similar, who had tragedy in his life. His neighbor was a surgeon, and Bill would look over his fence and see this grown man kind of devolving and partying until 4 a.m, and it really stuck with him because the guy had a redemption arc in real life and made it out okay. But it really stuck with Bill, and Brett had another idea, but his involved murder. But they got together on this idea. Now where I jumped in.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, no. They opted against that. But where I jumped in is I got a call from Bill a couple years ago saying he wanted to try to make a show together, and we talked about a few, and then Bill and Brett got on a Zoom and pitched this idea to me. And for me, it was like everything I had been looking for. I did a sitcom for like 9 years. It was a long time. And I wasn't sure I wanted to do another TV comedy. And then I had a really magical experience with James on a movie called The End of the Tour. And, thanks. And that kind of drove me through drama, and I really fell in love with doing that. And I told myself, if I ever do a real comedy again, it's gonna have to have all of these elements that I've been like gathering up and putting in my backpack. And this story was it. So then we jumped in and we found Jessica and like the rest of the amazing cast. These guys did an amazing casting job. I have to say, James jumped on board really early. I didn't want to do it with anybody except for James. But I have to say, I think that the show works because of the casting, and these guys were just like guys and lady, were just absolutely brilliant at it. We feel really lucky. Thank you.
I mean, that's fantastic. Obviously, he's absolutely right. It's amazing. So kudos to everybody who made such great decisions. I want to make sure that we get a chance to see maybe the first clip, if we can, which is Meant to Be. Can we cue that one up? Because I want to, next couple questions will be in that. And I just love that clip because I think so much of this show is about, it works because of the tone. And it's such a hard place to be, and it's such a fine line of kind of traipsing between the discomfort of things and the humor of things. And it's such a beautiful place to be when you hit it right. And so that's why I wanted to show it, because it's such an interesting place where it's really a crisis that he's having, and yet it's, it's funny because it's Psychological Vigilante is like going to be my band name now. And so I'm curious how, as wearing all the hats that you wear, how do you maintain the tone while traipsing on that line that is so thin and not leaning too far into the discomfort and the kind of sadness of it, or not too far into the humor? Is that a challenge?
Well, I think Jessica would agree with me, but I don't know.
Go on.
I have always believed this, since I started writing and performing. I think the only reason it's funny or if it works is if you believe it, if the character believes it, If I'm trying to hit punchlines and stuff, I think you feel it, and I think that's also maybe that's an old style of, not old style, but that's the amount of the sitcom should be, when someone's trying to hit punchlines and you know the rhythm and all that. This I think is more like the style of a movie where, the old rom-coms we used to do and all that when I was working with Judd and all those guys. I always think it works best if you actually mean it, if you're doing a drama and then the jokes are because you're weird. I mean, honest to God, like, I'm weird. That's how I'm like in life. You're not dissimilar, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty weird. I wanted to see Jason's character get in trouble, and I wanted to instigate it, and it really matters. It's like between my only job is to learn my lines and show up, and to me, between action and cut, give it 100% and be in whatever it is, and also to look at how Harrison's acting and look at how you're acting and then responding directly to that. Like, my focus is on you guys, and I'll just go, oh, well, in this take, Gabby just wants to see him get in trouble. So she's just gonna go, ooh, you gonna get it? Like, they're children.
Yeah, that's right.
But it matters, 100%. You can't, being cool it sucks.
I had this moment that really stuck with me when I was doing acting once. I was doing acting against someone who like really does acting, and we were doing the scene, and it was outside, and a stray cat walked through the thing, and I was like, whoa! And then he turned to me and he said, "They cut," and he said, "Your character's never seen a cat before?" I was like, whoa. Okay, but it actually really stuck with me. Like, right, you just need to be playing all these moments really present. You have to stay present.
I like
Cats
that.
are
'Cause
cool.
When you said, like, you said, whoa, when he said cut and turned to me, I was like, the cat? The cat? And then I was like, no, we're good. We're good. I do like, though, that it's an interesting thing about the being present and not concentrating on the joke, because there's no wink. There's no kind of, yeah, we know this is funny kind of moment. And in real life, everything is, there's so much that's comedic about just our day-to-day lives that's just ironic, that you just go, oh, of course, that's my world right there. And I love that it's played very straight like that. And so I think that's an amazing thing. And bringing in Ms. Jessica into it, who just wants to see people get in trouble.
I do.
So I love Gabby, because when I first saw her, I thought, oh, I see that scene, and I'm like, oh, she's like a ray of sunshine. She's happy. She's going to just sit back and drink her water. And then pretty quickly, I start seeing, like, there's like the amazing, most passive-aggressive fight with the neighbor, Liz, where everybody's just smiles and daggers. And I went, oh, she's got some ballsy anger in there, just simmering underneath. And then before too long, we actually see her kind of in her breaking point of sadness. And I really love that we kind of got a full view of different sides of her, all kind of happening at the same time. It just depends on the day on kind of which one you're gonna get and what the situation is. So I'm wondering, can you tell me, and I'm gonna ask, how many actors do we have in the room? Raise your hand high, because it's dark. Oh, all right. How many directors? How many writers? Wow, lots of writers. Producers? Okay, I just had to ask. Fantastic. I know that there are probably other people too, but we're just going to stop there. Before everybody goes, what about me? Can you tell me a little bit about how you found the character? Like, what did you kind of key into that made her who she is in this?
Yeah, I think, well, when I signed on for the show, they just had the first 2 episodes written, and Gabby was more of just a loose sketch. They knew they wanted her to be brighter in the office, and they knew that they wanted her to balance out Jimmy and Paul, played by Jason and Harrison. And so in my mind, I knew their work, so I thought, okay, she's always kind of on the upbeat, and it just became this kind of collaboration of trying to make sure I was present, coming from just like an Upright Citizens Brigade, comedy sports, and the Daily Show background. Weird, I forgot that. And Daily Show background. It was just cool because they told me I could improvise a lot, and so pretty quickly I got to improvise. And even I used to do this podcast called Two Dope Queens a lot, and thank you. And with that, it was just like a lot of times two ladies just talking on stage, and that's just what it was for like 5.5 years. And what I took away from that was I like the danger of not knowing what's gonna happen. I really, really like it. I don't skydive. I mean, I could, but I don't do shit like that. But as an actor, as a black actor, as a woman, it meant a lot to me to not know what she was gonna say. And I'll stop talking, what I found was that the script was really well written because we're trying to find that tone. And so there's a lot of different ways you could take a line, which is the sign of really good writing. And then it came down to the directing too. Like James he directed the first couple of episodes and really helped set the tone for the show. And I found that little things I would do where I would just improvise like, ooh, you gonna get it? And it's like, oh, that reminds me of my brother when, we're making fun of each other, and it sounds very black. And so I was like, okay, I want to bring that to Gabby. So I just took bits and pieces of references and things I think is funny, and then I try and let it come out whenever. And then the director, James, sees it, and he's like, oh, I actually really like that. That was actually really funny. So yes, I will put that in there, rather than just being like, oh, and she improvised that, and we're not gonna have that in there. So it really is like a collaboration. A lot of things have to go right to get to see, a woman or a black woman or like a person of color or a queer person up there, just kind of being able to fly free. It takes a lot of white allies.
There you go. And I do love that so much of that is being present in your scene and just being there to hear it and experience it and believing in it. So it works out really well. And I feel like you guys are like teeing me up on all my questions because you passed me to Jessica, and I was like, I have a Gabby question, and now I have a James question. It's all working out.
I was trying to set you up, girl.
We'll see how he goes to see if this really works. No pressure. So, James. So it seems to me so much of directing a show like this is spinning plates. And every character is spinning at a slightly different speed. There's the existential crisis spin, there's the angry spin, there's the sad spin. Everybody is a little bit different in where they're spinning. And as the director, how do you hone in on how to keep it all from flying off? Like, how do you kind of harness that and allow everybody to have their individual cadence and spin to their story, but keep it going in the right direction?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
I think there's the 30,000-foot view that you have to have if you're directing something. Like when Jason and Bill told me about this show initially, there was not a script, but they sort of told me some version of what Jason said. There's a neighbor and he's lost family and he's self-medicating, and I was like, and this is a comedy, huh? And and it sounded very sad, and it is. It is about grief and trauma and recovery. And because I know them, I was like, this will be very funny. And then the script was hilarious, and I laughed and I cried, and at the end, it sort of just kind of took a piece of my heart out of my chest, and did all the things. And I was like, okay, this is a tone for the show, But none of these individual characters know that they're not living that tone. They're just living their individual lives, and they have their own sort of metabolism, their own musicality with life, and the way that they approach things, the way they enter a room. It's all very specific to them. So then I think you sort of have to descend. And for me, I just always think that part of the job of a director is to sort of you that script inside and out. You have an open and trusting collaboration and just conversation with the actors, and so much of it is just having the right actors. I always think of, in this very Yoko Ono way, you're creating a happening. You're working with really great casting directors to put the right people there, to invite them to the party. And then you're just a fan. Like, I personally want to be by the camera, and I just want to eat popcorn, so to speak, and just like laugh and cry. Like, I mean, I've been a fan of Jason since Freaks and Geeks, long before we knew each other. I was a huge fan of yours on Daily Show, like, huge fan. And just seeing people who can be so present, and they're not living a tone, they're not living, I think Cheers and The Sopranos are two of the funniest shows ever. You know what I mean? And so that sort of kitchen in their office, that's our Cheers or our Bada Bing or whatever it is, And in that scene that you just played, like we're introducing the audience to the world. There's a disruption in Jimmy's world. He's made a decision that will alter the course of his life, but this is just another day in the life of these three characters, and this is sort of their home. But being a fan and just hoping to feel something is sort of where I operate from.
Can I interject something about that question? No. Thanks. You and I talked about it a bit, and I talked about it with Bill quite a bit, but I think it's also, comedy is very musical. It has a rhythm that you know, and there's lots of different kinds of comedy, and they each have their own kind of rhythm. And the thing that I think was very helpful, especially when writing and doing the scenes, is everyone's kind of playing a different instrument. Each one of these actors is a different instrument in a symphony, right? So it's learning to get them to play together. They don't all have to be going at the same pace, because Harrison can come in at quarter notes. You know what I mean? Boom, boom, and it like works. It works. You know what I mean? You need that guy too. So it's not about getting everybody on the same page. It's about getting everybody like on the same count.
I think it's actually kind of brilliant. Well done. Because it is. I love that, because it really is about everybody is playing their instrument. Nobody has to play the exact same melody. Yeah, that's right. But they work together, whether it's the bass line or whatever, it all kind of combines and makes this beautiful sound.
And can I say something just as like an actor that was just hired for this job? You, this gig, you, especially a comedic actor, I've done jobs definitely where I've been fired. I've done jobs where I've been like, oh, that wasn't as funny as I wanted it to be. Or, speaking to it's like, oh, I did this really funny thing, but it didn't even make it in. Or that went really well. And a lot of times as an actor, when you're auditioning and going out for things, it's about finding your band in symphony. So it's not you sometimes. Like, I did an audition once, and the casting director years ago was like, I can tell you're funny, but I don't know what to do with you. And that stuck with me, and he was white, but that did stick with me for a while. And I did a show last year called Love Life, and I loved it. And thank you. And what I realized, especially my first day on set, is like, I was super nervous, and I think Jason was my first scene. And then I was really nervous. I did my first couple takes, and then I was like, oh, we're in the same, musically, Jason and I, we're like, oh, we're doing the same thing. And that happened really quickly. And then I just remember being like, whew, oh, that's weird. Oh, that's weird. And then it's like, a lot of it's like dating, where you're just like, oh, trying to find what fit. But if you're funny, and you know what's funny, and you have things that make you laugh, hold on to that, because that's funny. Don't listen to anybody that tells you it's not. You just need to keep dating and find your fit. Yeah.
And
also casting.
And if I can just add to that, with actors who have brilliant imaginations and strong points of view, they are really, really great advocates for their characters. That's what they are, And I think what you hope for, like, at least for me, is that there's a space where there's like no judgment for any character, where there's actual advocacy and love for every character, even if they're making bad decisions and making deplorable decisions. There's advocacy, and in the real advocacy, it starts from just being a fan of really great actors, and the advocacy starts with the casting directors who really are just zealots for the actors that they love.
It starts with casting.
I've heard.
He's right. It does start with casting.
I mean, I know I said we'll see if you pass it, but my goodness, yes. We are going to the casting directors next.
I was just going to say that.
I just have to add one thing, which is I think Jason just called Harrison Ford a bassoon. A very important bassoon.
I think think he might actually appreciate it too.
I mean, we'll get into it, but I mean, we'll definitely get into it. You're not going to get to see some of because we only have 2 clips. You're not going to get to see some of the other amazing actors in this, like Luke and Lukita. But part of what's so awesome, and again, we'll get into it, is just like seeing 2 people who are just champions for actors who don't necessarily already have a large body of work that can be a frame of reference. And to see people just like say, this person is amazing and you need to listen and you need to pay attention to them, it's an awesome thing. And y'all did that in spades.
It's very special.
That's the most fun part. It is.
Yeah.
Period.
The discovery of it all. Yeah. I love, though, that the idea of whatever you're doing, if what you didn't get today, it didn't happen necessarily because of you, but it wasn't your band. It wasn't your song, you know, and you just have to wait until you are surrounded by the right complementary instruments so that your song can shine. And so it can be so discouraging when you think it's you, but honestly, it's so much bigger than that. And there are 1,000 ways in which the bassoon won't work in one song and will in another. I know.
I like how you
everybody's now-
ran with that, and I appreciate that.
I
Thank
think
you.
everybody now is like
Thank you very
looking
much.
up bassoon. What does that sound like? It's tall, long. Thank you very much for giving me such a lovely segue, though, to our wonderful casting directors. You 2 have had such a long and storied career, and you have done work that I think really speaks to your experience on how to handle specialization in kind of a feel of a show. Like the fact that you all were the casting directors for Scrubs, that's a very distinctive kind of comedy. It's a very distinctive kind of delivery that you need. And finding the right people who can play off each other in that way is obviously just a tremendous skill. So when you get a project like this, which is also very distinctive in the way the comedy is going to work, what is your first part of that process? What is your first kind of consideration on how you're going to approach putting together a stellar cast for a show like this?
Take it, Debbie.
Well, I think this was different for us because it was for Apple. And we knew that we had Jason, and that was super exciting. And we knew that he would attract a great supporting cast. I think that the best way to go about decorating Jason, if you will, is to just honor each character. And, we cannot take any credit for Harrison Ford. We put him on a list in a way where we were like, ha, we can put Harrison Ford on our list, woo, woo. But it wasn't until we had a conference call where we went over this 2.5-page list, and Bill at the end of it said, I know you guys are gonna think this is crazy, but I wanna go after one of these people and it might take a while, but I think we should be patient and see what happens, and that person is Harrison Ford. And he took it and ran, and it was incredible. And so kudos to him for believing in it and not giving up. And, I don't know, there's nothing more I can say about that. Jessica, she came in and just wowed everyone in her meeting. And I told her earlier that there was no way that we were gonna, Brett and I were gonna sit in her meeting because nobody needs more eyes on them. And she blew everyone away in her meeting. And the best part of casting is trying to find people that are fresh faces. That's what's rewarding for Brett and I. And so when we saw the characters of Sean and the character of Alice, we knew that that was where we would get to shine. And it was really just a matter of doing your work. You put out all the calls. Now, we're in the time of COVID. So you put out your calls for self-tapes and you get them in and you watch them. And this is a dark comedy. So we had 3 scenes for each of them to audition with. And there are a lot of times where you'll watch the first scene and you'll go, I don't know. And we learned very quickly that you had to keep watching. You had to watch all 3 scenes, and someone might tap in on scene 2 or 3 or the first one and maybe lose it in 2 and 3, and you would give some notes and come back to it. And it's a difficult time, and my heart goes out to all of you actors who send in all of these self-tapes, and I just want you to know that we watch them, because it's really hard what you do. And I hope you look at it as practice and something that eventually will pay off. But in regards to this show, I remember going through the submissions and seeing Lukita pop up, and I had watched her on Generation. She wasn't a fresh face in that I had never seen her before, but there was something about her in that show that was so memorable, and I was really excited to get her self-tape in. And we had a session before that, I think, with some Sean's, and there was some concern that there was, some pushing going on by some of the actors. And when her audition came in, Brett and I were like, oh, hello. Like, there we go. And we sent it off, and I just remember Jason freaking out. And it was the greatest thing. It really was. And Luke was just tried and true the whole time. I cannot tell you, like, there is something so magical about a consistency that you see throughout the whole process. And it's one thing to do a self-tape. We don't know how many times you guys, do it to get what you send in, but when you then are at a callback on Zoom and you do what we saw, that's the greatest thing. Or when you can take direction from Jason or James and run with it and make it sing even more, it's just a wonderful thing, and we just love that.
I think what both of those actors did, for whatever maybe it's helpful or something, I don't know. But Lukita and Luke, in their auditions, they were not trying to present almost like an oral report of a performance of what they would do were they to get the part. It wasn't at me. And this is hard over Zoom. They were really, really present. And there's a lot of improv in the show. I knew there would be, It's like a style that I've developed. And so when we would do these auditions, I would sometimes say other shit to see what would happen, you know what I mean? And some people, you could see like their plan got busted, And that wouldn't work, for what we were doing. Luke's plan never got busted, man. Like, I would be trying to provoke Luke, and Luke would be provoking me right back. And I was like, oh, it's this guy. And then Lukita, I just knew in an instant. They were exactly right. We had seen a few people, and there was a lot of acting coming at you. And Lukita in life, and I think in the character, is so rooted in who she is in a way that I didn't achieve until I'm still working at it. I'm 43 years old, And this young woman talks to Harrison Ford without blinking. Most of her scenes are with Harrison Ford. I'm scared of Harrison Ford. It's amazing what she pulled off, And
I just want to add, it goes without saying, the fact that Jason was there through that Zoom process doesn't always work that way, And it's not just, hey, the person who's going to be the star of the show is reading lines with them. It's that he was present and spontaneous and respectful and was there to play with them just the same way he would someone who'd been working as long as Harrison Ford, and he got the best out of them. So we weren't able to sort of imagine what they could do. It was like he let them flex their muscles and feel respected and seen, which is invaluable.
Well, I've been through it. It sucks.
Yeah, but people forget.
Everyone in here knows.
People forget.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. Number one on the call sheet is just, they forget.
Yeah, it's hard, this job. I had it real smooth at the beginning, and then parts where I couldn't get a job, parts where all of a sudden I was 6'4", but I was 20. And so, like, I couldn't play a high school kid anymore, but I also couldn't play a doctor. Like, I was just this one. I've had it go all the different ways. I think, like, I think anyone who even tries is so brave. It's a scary thing. There's a great documentary called Beauty is Embarrassing. If any of you have seen it, then you've seen it. That was an unnecessary sentence. If you haven't seen it, one of the premise of it is that when it's easy to hide behind saying I don't really care, but when you actually do care and think like, hey, this is what I do and who I am, when you go and do any of this shit, it's embarrassing to say, is this good enough? Is this beautiful? And most of the time is no. And so you have to, like, it takes a lot. I have a lot of sympathy when someone's auditioning, like, gosh, you're being brave right now.
I think the vulnerability of it is like being able to be vulnerable, but still understand that, still protect your core. You know, you don't have to take it as a sling or an arrow if it doesn't work, but you still have to be open enough in the process that you can come and play and not be so rooted in, and then I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna do that when somebody throws you an extra line, you have nowhere to go. So, you know, that is such an important part of, like, understanding how to self-tape, which I could never even imagine. I don't even like doing selfies because I can't, like, I look crazy in my own pictures. And then I'm mad at me, you know. So, the respect, I think people forget that it's respect on both sides. That even though you feel like you might be one of many who we're sending in, the people on the other side are genuinely want people to win. So when you look at it, you're hoping, you're desiring, you want everybody to be amazing. And then again, when they see it and they go, and I'm sure as casting directors, this has to have happened many times, where you see somebody and you go, this isn't their band, this isn't their song, but there's going to be another one.
That happens all the time. I mean, and we're always looking at people and saying, this person's fantastic, they're not right for this particular thing. They might be right for something else, either in the world or somewhere else, and that's the hope. Because I went to drama school, I went to Carnegie Mellon, and I had a teacher there, he was great, his name was Billy Wilson, and he was a Broadway director, and he told this great story, and it stuck with me like many years later. And but Billy told a story of when he was an actor, and very green, and didn't really know what he was doing, but he looked at a listing in like a backstage type thing, and it said, what he read was, bring your picture and resume. And so that's what he did. He said, I dropped off my picture and I resumed. And I say that because it's very hard sometimes, because you're in this and you're thinking, is anything I'm doing landing? Is anything I'm doing that's inherently me? It's kind of like what Jessica's talking about earlier, your individuality and who you are. Is that resonating with the people that you're coming in front of? And as much as you can, I would say, really believe that it is. It may not be something at the time, but if we're doing our job in the best way that we can, we will remember you. You will come back in. We were talking earlier in the week and we said many times actors will go in many times for a casting director and not get a job. But if you're getting called back by that casting director many times, you're doing everything that you can possibly do, and that's the best way we can show we like you, we believe in you, we believe in what you're doing. It's just a matter of what they were saying, of finding your band. So please know that, and please know that it might take, that's the time. There's very few people who are an overnight success. There are very few people, despite what TikTok and Instagram and all these other fucking social media things will tell you. It's not true. It's like true cream rises. But sometimes that really takes time. So trust in yourself and believe. And it really does happen. This particular cast is a great alchemy, and it's the kind of thing where you can only hope that you get the kind of magic that these guys all have, and that as writers, and James could speak as a director, they can go to almost any pairing of these guys and find something to work off of. And God, how lucky we all are to have that, because they're all amazing. They just are. So.
I love everything y'all said, and this is something, again, you can speak to, but I have a friend who's an actor, and they said that when they were younger, they'd been struggling as an actor, and they felt like casting directors were gatekeepers. And then they got a job as a casting assistant reading with people, and their perspective completely flipped, which was, oh, they're not gatekeepers. They don't take pleasure in saying no. What they want more than anything is to champion someone, to find someone and say, yes, hell yes, fuck yes, this is the person. And that was when their career started working.
Yeah. But you know what? It also depends on the casting director. It does. Because some casting directors, woo, they love to just have their sweet green in your audition and chomp, and they love to just be shitty, and they just had a messed up day, they got problems at home, and you just come in and audition and they will mess you up. So don't think, because they're amazing, there aren't lots of shitty casting directors out there, because there are, yes, and they want to make you feel bad for the day.
That's awful.
Let's name them. Who are they?
I can't, in good faith, because I would love to continue working.
Jessica will be giving a list afterwards.
But I think that speaks to you guys, and I will say, as an actor, you do have the casting directors that you fall in love with, and you can tell that they care about acting and they care about actors. And I know you know exactly I know exactly who they are out of the majority of actors. And thank you guys for being those casting directors that work to create a safe space, because I think they forget that we're supposed to walk in and be very vulnerable, and really, acting is very embarrassing most of the time. Oh, yeah. And it means a lot to have good casting directors and new casting directors that really care about the craft, and don't forget that we're really, trying. Because not everybody's like that.
And you are trying, and you guys are always trying, and I think what's really important that everybody remembers is that because of COVID and the fact that things are done on self-tape or on Zoom now, we don't have the rapport that we had in the room and the shorthand, and it's really hard. So do whatever you can to hold your head high and send us what you think is the best, and we're rooting for you. I don't know how else.
We also take Venmo, PayPal, and Apple Pay.
Sweet green.
Sweet green.
And sweet green.
I think it's fantastic, though, because it really is understanding that everybody wants the best. So you want the best on your end, they want the best on their end. Everybody's kind of trying to row the same direction. You just got to kind of figure out where you want to go and do your best. And, other than the 5 people who have clearly pissed off Jessica, who she will be. And honestly, it's true of every industry and everywhere you go, that there will always be people who are maybe not the nicest, and your best references are your friends and colleagues. Talk about your experiences and find out that, there'll be people who you might be an anomaly, but it might be not. And maybe you don't, maybe you want to know that going in.
And also remember who you are. Like, if someone kind of is shitty, especially, woman, black person, person of color, queer person, remember who you are and listen. Call your friends that will give you shit. Listen to old music you liked when you were a kid. Don't forget your childlike self, and connect to that, because you will get reamed. And when you do, don't forget your true north and what makes you laugh and giggle like when you were a kid.
There you go. If I may, I'd love to cue up the next clip, meant to be. And I love that because it really is a testament to just the great chemistry that happens amongst them, that it just kind of pops and it's so funny and it's so kind of just how people talk and roast each other, which, you know, we do every day. So I wanted to talk to you, Jessica, about chemistry. As an actor, as you are, how do other actors that you're working opposite, how can they engender trust in you, and what can you do to engender trust for them?
I am confused about the meaning of the word engender. Can you tell me what that means?
Oh, God, I hate you because I did look it up, just to make sure I was right.
Yes.
Let me rephrase rather than give you a dictionary. What do you do that helps other people trust you?
Oh.
Enables that level of trust to kind of grow, and what can they do that makes you feel comfortable enough to start trusting them and opening them so that you can spark that kind of chemistry?
Oh, okay, I'm with you. I've been very lucky to do, I'm 33, to do a lot of rom-coms with different people and men in their 40s. And I don't know why that always happens. It's like Kid Cudi, William Jackson Harper, Chris O'Dowd, maybe Jason, I don't know. They're always, and I think people, as someone who likes, all right, let me think about this. I just threw out some pretty unnecessary roasts for no reason to get to the answer, but I think people are inherently interesting, and I like hearing stories about people at their jobs. I like to hear the drama, and I have a really cool superpower that I've had for a really long time, where if I go to a bar, most women that are drunk, they grab me and they tell me I remind them of their very funny black friend from home, and that I look just like her that they went to high school with. Now, did that used to bother me? Yes. However, I think that speaks to feeling like I am warm to people, and a lot of that happens because I really care about how people work. When I wake up, I don't want to ruin people's day, and also, even when people are mean, I wonder why they're doing that, and I believe it comes from a place of trauma, because you won't always like the actors you have to create chemistry with. Also, I like to get very specific about the relationship that I have with the other actors. So for Krista, who is a great actress, she plays Liz, the next door neighbor, I love doing scenes with her because I love watching The Real Housewives. And what I love, like a rich white woman. And I love watching rich white ladies do stuff. I spend a lot of my time watching The Real Housewives. I think it's high art. It inspires me. It's honestly, you could put some of the stuff in the MoMA. I mean, it's perfect. I would literally teach a reality studies class if I could, because reality TV is very important. It shows us a lot about our humanity, and people don't want to admit that. However, in my case, I thought, oh, you've got this black lady talking to this white lady from Pasadena. She's rich, she's at home, she's tumbling rocks. So here's what I would say to Countess Luann, and I try and attack that with specificity, and I use it with my weird brain that cares about The Real Housewives. And so I know how my brain works most times. I know what's interesting to me, and I really try and hone in on that and assign it to the other actor. I know Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade happened the year I was born in 1989. I'm a little intimidated by that. So maybe Gabby's got that with Paul, right? And so I try just and attack it. That was my long story longer. I really care about people. I think they're interesting. I think there's always a reason to be nice or shitty. And so I have a lot of empathy. I try to have it in my day-to-day. And then the other thing is I really, really apply specificity to my relationships with every single character, basically. And then I attack it as much as possible in the scene. That's the best way I can describe it. That was really long. Woo! Don't woo, James.
I gotta admit, I wasn't sure where we were going at the beginning of that, but it came around and I was like, I got it.
My brain's pretty wild.
But I love, though, that there is such it's almost an art form. It's a superpower on how you connect with people and how you open up and try to understand people. And I think that's an amazing superpower to have, because it allows you to connect with people who you may not normally know or connect with. Rich white lady in Pasadena who tumbles rocks. I don't know a lot of tumbling rock people.
And also, lastly, like, something in the scene needs to happen every time. Like, something unique in every scene needs to happen. And so I feel like whether I'm doing a scene with Harrison or Krista or Jason or Lukita, like, there's something about our relationship that needs to be revealed, or my thoughts on this relationship. And so I really work to make something weird happen that's unexpected.
And it's worth noting, like, that Jessica, both in prep, she concerns herself with every aspect of the character. Like, what are the exact books that will be on the bookshelf in my office? Like, everything. She understands her character. But then when we get into the actual scene work, like the scene with Krista, or the one from the episode before, they get really drunk together, like, it's that curiosity that you have about people, that genuine, you really look at people and you really listen and you're weird, and like you connect on a level of weirdness with people, like their thing. You've done it with me, talking about my son and about fishing and things that I don't know if you're really interested in, but like you seem curious. You're like I want to learn, but like it was through that and seeing, like, with Krista the actor and Liz the character she plays, like, that the game of the scene was found. Like, them getting drunk on a couch and you being really funny and Liz wanting to keep up, wanting to be that lady in the bar. Like, I was like, that's the game of the scene. That's the game of the relationship over the season. You cracked it. Like, you found it. And that's something that I could, like, as an audience member, watch all day long.
Oh, I love it. We're about to go to the audience for questions, so get them ready. Is there a microphone or anything for people? There's going to be a microphone around, and somebody will be picking the people who are asking. I take Venmo? No. Let me ask the one question so we can just get it over with, can we? Harrison Ford. What is that like? Was everybody just like, oh, hey, Harrison? Or were you like, Mr. Ford, hi, welcome to the set?
So here's the experience, right? It's like they said. You make an offer to Harrison Ford so that for a week you can say, we have an offer out to Harrison Ford, and then you're gonna hire the actual person down the road. But then Harrison Ford said yes. So then there is this kind of collective moment of like, holy shit, Harrison Ford's gonna show up? And then he shows up, right? And you don't quite know what it's gonna be like, and I've said it a few times, but it's just worth saying because it's like one of the more generous experiences I've had with a person. Because Harrison Ford, if this makes any sense, could act however he wants. Like he could show up to this set with whatever demands or whatever he wants, Like Harrison Ford showed up and immediately broke through any awe, at least that I had, and made me feel like a peer. And that is like one of the most generous things he could have done. I hope he made everybody feel that way. And he said to me at one point, he was a carpenter, He said, I take these jobs with the mentality that I've been hired to build a house. And when the house is built, I just want the people who hired me to be happy with it. Yeah. Oh. And it was great. And I had another one vulnerable moment that I'll share with Harrison Ford, which was really special. Harrison Ford also said, listen, you guys know how to do comedy. I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn. And so then for the first few episodes, I don't know if your experience was the same, kind of the limitations of the writing, the imagination of us as writers, is that we would do comedy around Harrison, and Harrison would be kind of gruff about it. And you feel that. And then Harrison started to do moves. He saw Jess doing moves, and he saw me doing moves, and then all of a sudden, you see Harrison do like a little move. Started little, right? It was like, he's doing a little move. And then, and then there was a scene where he killed. He killed. He did a bunch of moves. And then he walked by me, and he just said really quietly, "I knew I was funny."
He was like, nailed it.
It's like the most tender thing I've ever experienced. Because we all have something to prove to ourselves, right? It's like all of us have the thing that we know about ourselves that nobody else knows, that we want to be known, you know? Like, gosh, if only people heard my beautiful singing voice. You know what I mean? Like, it's in all of our heads, and I think his
Now's
was
the chance,
like,
Jason, go.
yeah, I know, now's it. No, I think he knows he's funny. Harrison's weird and funny and all that, and he got to do it.
He also, you could just see what was just such a pleasure was you could see from early on in scenes with you that he was like, holy crap, these people are like killers. Like Jessica and Jason are just funny and sharp and on it, and he had to bring his A game. Like, and he really did, and he was consistently generous and seemed excited to be there. I mean, for what it's worth, like the very last scene that we shot for his character for this season was a scene where his character Paul's sitting at his desk. And we were finishing on like a close-up of him, and we had done, I don't know, like 4 takes of it, and I felt like we had it, and I was next to Neil, our showrunner. I was like, I feel good, man. Do you feel good? He was like, yeah. And I went in to Harrison. We're still rolling, and didn't say cut. And I was like, Harrison, I feel good, like meaning ready to cut, move on. He knew this was his last thing for the thing. I was like, Harrison, how do you feel? I just thought he would say, we're good to move on or something. And he was silent for about 40 seconds. I was like, how do you feel? He was 40 seconds of silence. And then he was like, I feel grateful. And he had like tears in his eyes. And I was like, that's a wrap on Harrison Ford, folks. And everyone applauded. And he cried and hugged everybody and then came back later and partied with everybody. And but he really was. He's like, that guy's just having fun. He turned 80 while we were filming. He's having the time of his life.
I love it. Although I gotta say, listening to Harrison Ford sing Sugar Ray, I think, was just not on my bingo card.
That's her. That's Jessica.
That's all Jessica.
I wanted to ask, who picked your music? You know what? I kind of knew it was you.
How? From Whistle?
I don't know. I was like, she's got to be picking this music herself because it's just so different. Gonna leave it at that. Different.
Sure.
Different. So I know we want to get to some questions. We have somebody back there somewhere. Oh, there you go.
Hello. I'm wondering about, for Debbie and Brett, in terms of divining the tone, if you're auditioning but not with multiple scenes or a script, while the world is not just in the heads of the creators, but there's another world that's going to be built based on the symphony that coalesces. Do you have any tips for divining tone beyond exploring the creator's work and using your intuition as an actor?
That's
it's
a
Eric,
great
by
question.
the way.
Wow.
Great question.
No, I think, let me see if I'm getting this, Eric, let me see if I'm getting this where you're headed. You're talking about moving forward or even within the series, subsequent roles that come in. I think by now, after 10 episodes, we kind of have this general sense of what these guys want or what they're going for. Certainly, when we started the project, I think something we were all learning together was the general tone of where we wanted things to land, which Jason spoke to earlier. But now, I think going into it, and we do get asked this question many times by actors, and let me just preface this and say, again, when you come into an audition, and again, many times you're just doing it on tape, but you do have to pay attention to the tone of the show. We're not a sitcom. We're not over the top. So for this, we do play things pretty realistically, and the actors play it pretty real. So for us, it's finding the truth in whatever that is in that scene and playing it as realistically and straight as possible. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, just like the 4 to 10 episodes are in the can.
Yeah, like for a fresh audition,
Like
how
for-
the hell do you know what the tone is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's sometimes, you don't always know, and unfortunately what happens is we send out 25 tape requests and get them in. We learned as we went through this process, working remotely, to say, let's bring in some people that we want to work with if we need to give adjustments to. Sometime if the line is, here's your latte, they may not. But if it's something a little bit larger, for example, the role of Summer, who is Alice's best friend, we read so many girls for that role, and they saw so many girls for that role. So that was a particularly hard needle to thread, that role, to find out, because we have a lot of people involved in production, and people had very definite ideas about what it should be. So that was something that was a little more difficult. But hopefully, in that circumstance, say to your agent, say to your representative, can you tell me a little bit more, what they're going for or what it is? Because I understand you're working in a vacuum, obviously, before it's actually come on air. And your reps should be able to call and ask us the question. And if they don't, fire them. No, I'm kidding. But because I know that's also hard to do as well. But sometimes it's literally doing the best that you can do. And again, it sucks because you're working right now in a vacuum. You don't get the benefit of being in the room with us to get the immediate feedback or to get a adjustment in the room. So that's the hard part of all this.
Am I picking or are you picking?
I mean, I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm sorry, Jason's picking.
So like, I guess, okay, great. So when you're creating the project, and so I write and direct, and I have these characters and they live in my head, and then you get a wonderful cast and everything. What does the process look like to create, because they're new characters. Once you're cast, you've given them to a new actor and you're building it now with them. And how much rehearsal time do you get? What's that process look like?
Well, we had no rehearsal time. Here, I'll trade back.
Yeah, here.
Thanks. Now I have SARS-2 COVID-19. Did I say it right? Cool. Well, I'll tell you, here, I actually can answer that question, if you don't mind, with a little story. In 1861, no. When I wrote Forgetting Sarah Marshall, the part of, well, thank you, but this is actually for somebody else. Did a good job. The part of my nemesis was written as a straight-laced British author, like a Hugh Grant type. That's how I pictured him. Oh gosh, what if I was up against the most put-together guy who is now dating my girlfriend? So we auditioned a bunch of people who were doing that. Some people were doing fake British accents, and people were wearing three-piece suits to the audition and everything. And just something about it didn't feel right. And then Russell Brand walked in, dressed like a vampire, chains clinking, and he said, I'll never forget, verbatim, he said, "You have to forgive me, mate. I've only had a chance to take a cursory glance of your little script. Perhaps you should tell me what it is you require." I swear to God. And then I just improv'd with him, and then he left, and I was like, that's the guy, and it's my job to do a rewrite. Do you know what I mean? And I took that experience now, like the more rational version of that is you want someone who's going to be great for the role, but then it's your job to, I believe, it's your job to do a rewrite. It's your job to do a rewrite every time, and that the point of it is to create a platform for the person to thrive, to fly. You know what I mean? Like you've said a few times, I love that choice of words. Like, okay, what is gonna make this person just like fucking kill this? Not how do I make this person contort into my brain, into the limitations of what I've pictured this thing to be like. That's my view. Some people feel the exact opposite. They're like, they want to hire someone as close to what they pictured as possible. But that is why I started writing, is because I wasn't close to what anybody pictured. I mean, that's the truth, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't falling into any of these fucking categories. And so the best advice I got, Judd Apatow took me to his office and he said, Jason, sit down. You're a weird dude. The only way you're gonna make it is if you write your own material, and I'm gonna teach you how to do it. And that changed my life.
Hi there, my name is Brian. I had the pleasure of being one of the additional PAs on half the episodes this season, so nice to see you, Jason.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
One of the funniest things is when you hear on the walkie, we lost Harrison again on the bicycle, and he goes around the corner. Downtown, where we're at, he just disappears. No security. I love that. I'm a combat military veteran myself, and so I got to give a shout on everything that happened with Luke's character. And I wanted to ask a question about, whether it was PTS with veterans or the OCD or abuse. What were some of the things that other areas possibly for season 2 or things that were thought about? I'm very very thankful to work on a show that represented this type of content well. Thank you.
I guess in theory I should take that because yeah, okay, yeah. I mean this sincerely, not as a joke. We're a bunch of people in the writer's room, myself, all of us is what I'm trying to say, and a lot of us in the cast are real complicated people with dealing with a lot of shit, I being one of them. And so the writer's room was a bunch of people sharing their experiences. We had a vet as well who, some of Sean's, I want to just be careful with everyone's anonymity, but some of Sean's experiences were things that he experienced came out from his experience, a different person, and had a lot he had to figure out. And so he gave us the gift of letting us put that into the script, and I think he was happy about that too. I think life's fucking complicated and we're all trying to figure it out, and everybody, especially now, maybe why the show is resonating, everybody feels a little unwell. Everyone feels a little sense of dis-ease. Like it was a really weird few years, and besides that, life is weird. So I think that the show is like hopefully shining a light on that we all feel all these ways. Like we all feel all these ways, I think. And so we made some of them extreme. We have great psychiatrists and therapists who help advise, that's the right word, who are advisors. And we try to really honor this idea that this guy's suddenly doing unconventional therapy. That's really a cool premise, but it can also go really badly. So we honor that as well as the season goes on. That's all I can really say without giving too much away.
Just a question for being a close to first-time writer-director, maybe a 5-parter, just a 2-parter. Brett and Debbie, what advice would you give for a director who's looking to establish a relationship with a casting company or director, avoiding the torturous assholes that Jessica went through? And then I guess Jason and James, having a relationship with your directors and your writers, and sort of kind of getting that all in one place where you've got that synchronicity.
I think it's hard. I think you have to go with your gut. I mean, we go in for meetings and we sit down and we talk to somebody for maybe an hour, and it's sort of like, can we sit on, we do mostly television, so it's, can you sit on a couch for 3 months and cast a pilot, or, whatever it is. And you just hope that there's a vibe. And if there's a vibe, then you hope that that can grow and you can learn to understand how each other work and what each other's tastes are, and respectfully disagree and, agree when you do. And, we had so many cooks in the kitchen for this show, and we had not only many cooks in the kitchen, but we had people all over the globe. Some were in London, some were in Florida, some were in LA. There were, all these time constraints. And so I think, go with your gut, and then, just try to hash it out. And, there are times where, we take jobs like Bill Lawrence is a great example. We took Scrubs, and we've worked with him for over 20 years. And there are other people we've worked with once. And luckily, there are multiple people we've worked with multiple times. And that's great. And we love growing with people as you do that. So, I think, I would say take a bunch of meetings and see who you vibe with.
We have time for one more question, and I want to make sure that we get a little bit further back. Anyone have a question back there? Anyone? I saw the hand of the man in the hat.
There's people in the balcony, too. But all these... Is everyone up there young? College students, cool.
It's good to be young.
That was the oldest thing I've ever said. Is everyone up there young?
Yeah,
Our backs hurt.
very interesting thing to zoom in on.
I
don't know why that matters.
So young.
I don't know. It's like your solo show.
Fresh blood.
Hey.
I can throw it up there if you want.
Talk amongst yourselves, figure out who's going to ask a question. Does anyone have a question down here in this back section?
Any old people
the man
below
with
have
the hat.
Being actors and producers, how do you find it hard to be objective about watching your own performances behind the monitor? And how do you ever butt heads with James, the director, on which performance is better? And are you in the editing room at all?
Do you want to take this first? Or should I? It's to me. It was to me. I've had to watch myself a lot. So I have a whole built-in self-loathing system. I really do, that I have to overcome if I'm going to do the job I do. If I'm not like on Winning Time, I'm just an actor for hire on it. I can't watch it. I just want to do it because I find myself more carefree when I'm acting. If I think, you know what, you don't ever have to watch this. It's like a gift I give myself right before I do a scene. It frees me, of self-consciousness. But anyway, when I'm doing acting that I'm gonna have to watch, I try to give a really big range because you don't know sometimes you don't even know what order the scenes are going to end up in, as crazy as that sounds. So I'm like obsessed with prep. I do a very, 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 very intense prep system that is over the top, but I am capable at the end of it of doing the scene a gazillion different ways. It's probably overkill, but it makes me feel really comfortable. And then I just try to do a range and trust that James or whoever is going to protect the actor. Because it is a scary, vulnerable thing. And sometimes the really good stuff is like at the edge. And you don't know until you do it. And sometimes when you do the edge, it's embarrassing, like not good. And to have the trust in someone that that will be protected, that it's safe, and don't worry. It's not like the stupid photo shoot where at the end they're like, just do one for fun, we'll never use it, jump. And then there you are on the cover of fucking Vanity Fair. Your legs in the air. But I also have learned, like, we did a scene at End of the Tour where I thought it was my big moment. You know what I'm talking about? In the car? I thought it was my big moment. It was a big monologue, and I really worked hard on it, and I was really going to do some real good acting. And we started driving, and we did the scene, and I was really excited to see the movie. When I saw the movie, the entire scene was on Jesse Eisenberg. And it's just my voice, and you occasionally cut back to me, but it's on Jesse. And I was like, oh, right, this scene is about Jesse changing, not my monologue. It's like my monologue is changing his character. James understood that in a way that I didn't because I'm really focused on my own performance. And so no, I think that that's an important part of collaborating, is realizing there's a real respect for a director of having the bird's eye view. And I try to have it, but when I'm performing also, I'm pretty damn focused on making sure that I deliver James the material he needs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ella, one of aforementioned college students. First off, everyone wanted me to say, Jason, we really love the Muppet movie.
Yeah!
Like, me and my roommates rewatched it the other night, and watching it, like, it's very underrated how funny that movie is. Like,
thanks.
Watching it at a young age, it really
I mean, it was
shaped
rated
my
pretty
sense of
highly,
humor.
just so you know. It's like, people love it, but.
Yes, we love it. It's very popular with the younger generation.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. So kind of speaking on the younger generation, Alice, I really liked her character, and obviously as a young woman myself, it's very rare that we find a young, like, teenage girl character written in a way that's, like, relatable. And, like, you know, sometimes I'll watch a show and it'll have, like, a teenager, and I'm like, oh my God, this writer has never heard or interacted with a teenage girl before. And, you know, watching this show, especially the scenes with, like, the Phoebe Bridgers songs, I was like, oh yes, they get it. So kind of like, what was your process? Because I know with the veteran question, there's a veteran in the writing room, but there's a very low chance that there's a teenage girl in the writing room. So, like, what was kind of your process with developing that character of Alice?
Well, Bill Lawrence, that's a great question. Thank you. It's an excellent question. Bill Lawrence has a daughter, and so some of it is his experience with his daughter. She's 22 now, I believe. We also have an amazing group of female writers in our writers' room who are, like, I mean, absolute killers. Like, and they just really heavily influenced the writing for Alice. And it's, I agree, like, it's so veers away from being stereotypical. That was the real goal of, like, would this person really behave? And then I have to say, Lukita, just like everyone else we've discussed, she is just so, she has this gift of effortlessness, this gift of naturalism that I think we all work hard to fake. And it's true. I brought it up to her the other night, actually. We were at a get-together for the cast, and she was just talking to Harrison Ford like real casual, like. I was like, God, you're so natural. You're so comfortable with who you are. And she says, well, I'm faking it a little bit, but yeah, I guess this is kind of who I am, you know? And man. So I think a lot of it belongs to Lukita as well. She's just a really, really special actress who took control of that part.
So it is my sad duty to bring this evening to a close, but I'm sure you want to join me in thanking this amazing group for coming in and talking.
You should definitely go on IMDb and review the Muppet movie. Get those ratings up.
And there is a reception afterwards, so
There is?
Come have a tipple and have some fun.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you guys. Thank you.